Everybody knows Mark Twain, even those of us who have not read him. We are familiar with his best-known books, at least by title, and we know the characters who come to life within them. For example, Tom Sawyer, Becky Thatcher, Jim and Huck. We like these characters who are immune to time, and we take interest in their experiences. And so for decades, Mark Twain has been an important presence among us, which we have taken for granted. But this was not always the case. Shortly after Twain's death in 1910, the distinguished editor of Bookman magazine, Harry Thurston Peck, paid his respects to Twain, but went on to say that history would deny him the status of an important writer because he was only a humorist. Since Peck's day, we have learned the importance of humor. We acknowledge, as Peck's generation did not, the greatness of Geoffrey Chaucer and of Shakespeare's comedies as well as his tragedies. And we know that, like Charles Dickens, Mark Twain could be serious when he was being most comic. We also know that today Twain's reputation is higher than it has ever been, for as the first great master of American English, he exerts a tremendous influence. Twain first realized his gifts as a writer with the story Jim Smiley and His Jumping Frog in 1865. The genesis of the story is a folk tale about a man who won a jumping frog contest by feeding quail shot to the opposing frog. Fascinated by this bit of folklore, Twain wanted to do two things. He wanted to transform that folklore into literature, and he wanted to recreate the storytelling experience. The result is that an authentic folk tale is transformed into a work of art which presents itself as an authentic folk tale. Jim Smiley and His Jumping Frog succeeds in large measure because of Twain's ability to get the spoken word down upon the page. As the first words of his narrator, Simon Wheeler, attest. Simon says, Reverend Leonis W. Well, there was a fellow here once by the name of Jim Smiley in the winter of '49. Or maybe it was the spring of '50. I don't recollect exactly somehow, though what makes me think it was one or t'other is because I remember the big flume warn't finished when he first come to camp. But anyway, he was the curiousest man about always betting on anything that turned up you ever see, if he could get anybody to bet on the other side. And if he couldn't, he'd change sides. A rhetorician would call this a paratactic sentence because it lacks the arrangement, the emphasis and subordination of predetermined syntax. Instead, it conveys spontaneous thought through spontaneous utterance. On the page, it looks even more rambling than it is. The sentence halts, jerks forward, and hesitates as Wheeler struggles to remember a non-existent Leonidas Smiley, and then picks up energy, if not gracefulness, in Wheeler's enthusiastic recollection of the compulsive gambler Jim Smiley. In sum, Wheeler's voice registers from the page upon the reader's eye, ear, and mind as the authentic speech of a California gold miner. Twain succeeded even better 20 years later through the voice of Huckleberry Finn, not only because he had at his disposal the rich subject matter of Hannibal and the spaciousness of the novel, but also because his humor in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn has a higher end, that of illuminating some of the most important themes in American life and literature. For example, the theme of friendship, the theme of freedom, and the theme of man's inhumanity to man, which Huck sums up as he watches the king and duke, tarred and feathered, being ridden out of town on a rail. Human beings, Huck says ruefully, can be awful cruel to one another. I want to stress the theme of friendship in response to protests against the teaching of Huckleberry Finn in high school. According to an Associated Press story, August 29, 1991, Huck Finn ranks fourth among the books most frequently protested against since 1982. The principal objection to it is the presence in its pages of one word. In 1924, the African-American poet Countee Cullen wrote a brief but powerful poem about that word entitled Incident. Once riding in old Baltimore, heart filled, head filled with glee, I saw a Baltimorean keep looking straight at me. Now I was 8 and very small, and he was no whit bigger. And so I smiled, but he stuck out his tongue and called me nigger. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. The insult conveyed by that word is no less painful for African-American children and their parents today than it was for County Cullen in 1924. Huck is right. Human beings can be awful cruel to one another. To suggest that when Twain wrote Huck Finn, no racial slur adhered to the word is quite beside the point. Much more pertinent is the fact that Huck didn't know to say Negro. In his day, and for many a day afterward, children were taught to say hero, but not to say Negro. So he used the word that wounds. It seems to me that there is but one case for teachers to make who want to teach Huck Finn unexpurgated. It is this: that racial slur is part of reality, and one of the best places for Americans to confront this particular reality is Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, particularly in the context of the developing friendship between Jim and Huck. It is important to know that Huck's commitment to befriending Jim derives from an actual event. Vincent Blankenship, a fisherman, and older brother of Tom, the prototype of Huckleberry Finn, came upon a runaway slave on Sny Island just across the river from Hannibal. Instead of turning the slave in for reward, Vincent befriended him, kept his presence secret, and brought him food. But that generosity is not readily apparent in the beginning of the novel. Jim is someone to play jokes upon, unaware of how much their journey down the river is changing their relationship. Huck continues to make Jim the butt of his jokes, with the dead rattlesnake in Chapter 10 and the cruel hopes in Chapter 15, that their harrowing adventure while separated in the fog were only a dream. In the morning light, Jim sees the debris and the smashed oar, realizes that he has been made a fool of, recalls his joy at seeing Huck safely back on the raft, and responds with great dignity. "I could have got down on my knees and kissed your foot, I was so thankful. And all you was thinking about was how you can make a fool of old Jim with a lie. That truck there is trash. And trash is what people is that puts dirt on the heads of their friends and makes them ashamed." The friendship between the scantily educated boy and the slave who by law has been denied education is appropriately one of small words. Huck's silent response is, "I could almost kiss his foot to get him to take it back. It was 15 minutes before I could work myself up to go and humble myself to a nigger, but I done it, and I warn't ever sorry for it afterwards neither. I didn't do him no more mean tricks, and I wouldn't have done that one if I'd knowed it would make him feel that way." Note two words in the passage, the word nigger and the word almost. The first is probably the ugliest buzzword in our language today. It leaps off the page at us. But in this passage, it is the word almost which registers more profoundly. Jim could have kissed Huck's foot in gratitude for his safety. Huck could almost have kissed Jim's foot in his great need for forgiveness. There is no almost in the climactic struggle between Huck and his conscience in Chapter 31. There Huck makes a complete commitment to the human value of friendship. It transcends all differences of race and culture. In this century, the distinguished British novelist E.M. Forster, surveying contending nations distorted by misplaced chauvinism and the likes of Hitler and Stalin, spoke for himself. But it is as if he spoke for Huckleberry Finn as well. "If ever I am confronted with a choice between my country and my friend," he said, "I hope I have the courage to choose my friend." Huck had the courage to make that choice. There is no better anti-racist book in 19th century American literature than Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. We must continue to read it in its entirety and teach it.